Hello viewers, welcome to the Editorial Analysis by Dristhi IAS. In this section, we regularly take editorials from various newspapers and news portals for a better understanding of various issues happening in India and around the globe. In this section, we first try to link the editorial with our UPSC syllabus, then we go analytical in order to understand some key points and at last some important concepts. Dear viewers, we truly hope that you like this initiative taken by Drishti IAS and your feedbacks are important for us. So kindly feel free to give your important feedbacks in the comment section. So without any further delay, let's commence our session.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
Today's editorial is taken from the Financial Express published on 12th of November 2020. The title of today's editorial is Backing Big Firms and Global Champions is the Way to Go. If we try to summarize today's editorial, we can say that the success of the PLI scheme depends on proxies chosen. The $200 criteria for phone ensures large export, for instance. If we try to link today's editorial with our UPSC syllabus, we can link it with GS Paper 3, which has sections that include economic development, planning, mobilization of resources, etc. Some key points from today's editorial. It is not clear what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman meant when last month she spoke of how socialist policies of the past decade has held our economy back and needed to be jettisoned, but the production-linked incentive scheme that the cabinet cleared on Wednesday, like the one for mobile phones in the month of September, could well be an instance of how India plans to change track. Now, last month, the Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, she said that some of the socialist policies which have been followed by the previous government have actually held the economy back, and it's time that the economy should be given some propulsion, and that propulsion is actually being planned to be given through the production linked incentive, that is the PLI scheme. Now, when we are speaking about the PLI scheme, it is important for us to understand what exactly the scheme is. Now, the PLI scheme, it actually proposes a financial incentive to boost domestic manufacturing and attract large investment in the electronic value chain. That includes electronic components and semiconductor packaging. It will get an incentive of 4 to 6% to electronic manufacturing companies on incremental sales over a base year. Okay, with respect to the previous year, the values of the present year will be calculated, and the increase has to be of around the incentive that has been planned. It has been said that it will be of around 4 to 6%. The entire goods should be produced or manufactured in India, and it will be eligible for companies over the period of next 5 years. It shall only be applicable to target segments, namely mobile phones, specified electronic components. Initially, the plan was with these two sectors. Later on, 8 more sectors have been added to this. We will talk about this later. According to the scheme, the companies that make mobile phones which sell for rupees 15,000 or more will get an incentive of up to 6% on incremental sales of all such mobile phones made in India. In the same category, companies which are owned by Indian nationals and make such mobile phones, the incentive has been kept at 200 crore rupees for the next 4 years. This scheme will be implemented through a nodal agency which shall act as a project management agency. Okay, so this is something which was initially for the two sectors, the mobile one and the electronic component one. Later on, the government has come up with another 8 sectors, and like the Union Cabinet on Wednesday, it approved the PLI scheme up to the benefits of around 1.46 lakh crores. Okay, 1.46 lakh crores for 10 key sectors in a bid to boost India's manufacturing capabilities and enhancing export. It is an important step towards improving India's competitiveness and realizing on Atmanirbhar Bharat, the idea that was actually quoted by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in the month of April during the lockdown. Now, the sectors which are added, all the sectors that will be covered in the PLI scheme, they are: number one, advanced chemistry cell battery. Okay, advanced chemistry cell battery. Number two will be electronics. Number three, automobile. Number four, the pharmaceutical sector. Number five, telecom and networking. Number six, textile. Number seven, food products. Number eight, the modules for solar power. Okay. Number nine, specialty steel. And number 10, white goods. When I'm speaking about white goods, it is important for us to understand that white goods actually includes air conditioners, lamps, decorative lamps, etc. Okay. So this is something with reference to the production link scheme, how much government has actually planned.
Now, among these 8 sectors, automobile sector has received the maximum incentive. Okay, the automobile sector has received maximum incentive of 57,042 crore rupees. Okay, 57,042 crore rupees. After this, the second sector to get the maximum incentive is the advanced chemistry cell battery, which has got an incentive of around 18,100 crore rupees. Okay, 18,100 crore rupees. So this is something with reference to the production linked incentive.
In the past and even today, India gave incentives such as those to boost exports to everyone. Indeed, even today, many remain based towards MSME players. To remain small was beautiful since you got exemption from various laws like those on laptops as well. Now, in the past as well, the governments in India, they have been providing such kind of incentives to everyone, okay, in order to boost the export. Especially, the major support was provided to the MSME sector industries. Also, it is an idea in India that if you're small, you have got lots of benefits, especially the kind of exemptions you get, you receive some exemptions, okay. Now, if we speak about the MEIS export incentive scheme, for instance, is given to 85% to 90% of exporters today for around 3/4 of all goods, while in practice the number of items, tariff lines and jargon where exports are growing well is much smaller. If we talk about such schemes, the MEIS export incentive scheme can be a very good example. The MEIS scheme, what exactly it is? It is the Merchandise Export from India scheme. It was introduced in the foreign trade policy and it was actually applied. It came into effect from 1st of April 2015. The major objective of the MEIS scheme was to offset infrastructural inefficiencies and associated costs involved in exporting goods or products which are produced or manufactured in India. The example that I gave you about the PLI scheme for the mobile phones in the beginning. See, the PLI scheme for the mobile phones, on the other hand, was not for everyone. Given the stiff annual incremental production targets of 25,000 crores over the base level by the 5th year, it essentially aimed at getting global biggies like Apple, Samsung to produce in India. Now, the PLI scheme for mobile phones, when it was introduced, it was not available for everyone because it was actually offering a very stiff production target. It was said that with the reference like a duration of 5 years will be given, and with reference to the base year, by the 5th year, there has to be an increment of around 25,000 crore rupees. Now, it was actually aimed at targeting the global mobile phone giants to set up their production units here in India, such as Apple, Samsung, etc. Both control the lion's share of the $300 by global export market, and given how fast India's mobile component import are rising to meet the demand for even low-cost handset, getting global players to export from India is critical. Now, if we talk about the present scenario, this wooing of global size players such as Apple, Samsung, etc., who can produce global quality output and then export it as well, is what the new 2000 crore PLI scheme aims at. Okay, now this scheme that we have planned, this incentive of around 2 lakh crores, this actually is for these companies. They can come, they can set their manufacturing units, they can increase their manufacturing production, and from India we can export it to the other countries. Okay, so this particular scheme is for such giants. Details of the exact scheme for each of the 10 sectors chosen, restricting the scheme to just 10 sectors, it's itself a big change from past, are yet to be finalized. The cabinet just approved of an umbrella plan as a concept in a sense. Now, these 10 companies, these 10 sectors to be precise, initially, it is a part of the bigger umbrella plan, and government definitely has got a lot more in its bag, and later on we can definitely see that what other sectors will be added and how some other schemes are also introduced for the rest of the sectors which are not included in this particular PLI segment scheme. The future ahead. For the new PLI scheme to work, the government will have to choose the proxies very well, else the scheme will quickly deteriorate into just an incentive scheme for local production. Though it is of course true that if the incremental production targets are steep enough, this will require a global scale of production, and that in turn has a better chance of being exportable. Now, government has to be very careful in implementing this PLI scheme. Otherwise, it will just turn out to be another scheme, another incentive-based scheme for the local manufacturers. Now, if we are able to meet the production levels, and if we are in such a state that the production here in the country is great enough, then definitely the chances are quite high that we can definitely become an exporting powerhouse in the years to come. In the case of automobiles, given how the largest part of India's market is for small car in both length and engine capacity, one way to encourage export is to give the PLI only for the big cars. See, if you talk about India in the automobile sector, majority of the people in India, they come from middle class. And if we talk about affordability of a car for middle class, generally a small car is being preferred. Everybody cannot go for an SUV, okay, type vehicle or a sedan type vehicle. People actually prefer a car that can complete, or you can say it's a dream in India for people to own a car. So the automobile market in India targets that particular section. So what we can do is, if we are talking about exporting the cars, then the PLI should be applicable in the manufacturing of the big cars, not for the small cars. Okay. Of course, if all that does is to reduce the cost of bigger cars for the local market, this will defeat the purpose. But if the provision is only such that the bigger cars which are produced, they are lowering their cost, then situation will definitely be quite difficult. Because when you can get a car, a bigger car in such a budget which you thought was impossible to get a big car, then definitely the automobile market, the small car manufacturers, they can, or the small car market in India will definitely suffer. So the idea has to be clear. The PLI should be given for bigger cars which are to be exported, not for creating a competition in the local market itself. The final word on the scheme then will depend on how imaginatively they are designed, but there can be little doubt they present a bold attempt to try and break away from the past. See, we don't know how exactly this scheme will work out. We definitely can hope for the best, but right now all we have is assurance. Now, once this thing comes into picture, once it is actually taken from papers and being applied practically, only then we can have proper results. But yes, it has to be said that such an attempt taken by the government is definitely a very bold one, and we are actually trying to break away from what we have done in the past. So viewers, this was with today's editorial analysis. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much.